Hi everyone, this is Dr. Roadhouse here from Roadhouse Chiropractic. Want to thank everybody for getting on today and watching our program. This is the fourth installment, and it's going to be on irritable bowel syndrome. We'll be talking about that today. Talk about some reasons as to what can be causing it and what you can do. Try to do some home remedies and see if you can fix it. And also talk about some of the labs that we do on these patients that really makes our treatment pretty successful. So anyway, if you have any questions, ask the Dr. B Show. I guess it's Ask Dr. B Show in Gmail. And we've got a couple questions, and I'm going to cover those a little bit later. I've authored this DVD, and it's Irritated to No End with Your IBS, which is Irritable Bowel Syndrome. We'll cover what that is in a little bit. So if you're interested and you would like to get this, it has lots of information here on the different labs that we do and the different treatments. All you have to do is email our office at Ask Dr. B Show and say, I'd like to get the IBS DVD, and we will mail that to you. So one of the things I'm going to be talking about today is probiotics, because they're really important in just overall gut health. And so I've been recommending probiotics for a long time, and I knew that a lot of the probiotics were, and there's different brands, different types, different strengths, but I found a new product, and it's Bifid Pro, and there's 50 billion international units of probiotics in here, which is about the amount that you need. Some have a lot less, but the thing that makes this probiotic so much better is a couple things. It has two probiotics, and it has lactobacillus, which is, for the large intestine, and it has bifidobacterium, which is for to get into your gut, and more of it's going to get deeper into the gut, into large intestine, small intestine, for the healing process to take place in the gut. So the main reason that we want to use that is because the probiotics line the gut lining. Okay, so what that means is, in case you do get, let's say that you have a problem with gluten, and you do eat some gluten, your immune system starts attacking it. Well, with this, when you have enough on the gut lining, it can't get to the intestines. So as you kind of protects it in case you get, that doesn't mean, like, a lot of people, we have patients come in, they're diabetic and they take insulin, but they're extremely overweight, and when you talk to them about their diet, they're just like, well, I'm going to eat whatever I can because I take the insulin, everything's going to be okay. So that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about in case you get secondary exposure to this. So anyway, this bottle right here is really good for gut health. And gut health, there's so many things we're going to talk about when we get into this irritable bowel syndrome. So anyway, if you like the page, and then we don't need that. And then if you share, my staff will get the people that share them and like them. And then before next week's broadcast, we'll announce the winner. And if you're in town here, remember I'm over at the Kelly Medical Building at St. Francis Hospital campus. So if you're in town, you can stop by and get it. If you want us to mail it to you, we'll mail it to you also. So we'll do that. Next week, I'm going to be doing the Ask Dr. B Show. I'm going to be talking about and actually demonstrating my favorite smoothies that we're going to do for overall health. There's certain smoothies that you can do for digestion, for energy, and we're going to cover some of those and show you how to make them where you can actually drink them and tolerate them, and they're not pretty gross tasting. So anyway, if you like the page and share it, then we'll keep track of that, and we'll announce the winner next week when we go ahead and do my favorite smoothie show. So anyway, Irritable bowel syndrome, what is it? Well, if you've had it, you know that it's mostly gut stuff. And Hippocrates said, look to the gut for the cause of disease. And so on something like this, that's where we're going to find the problem, is in the gut somewhere. So what we're going to do is we're going to kind of go over the symptoms. The symptoms are, belly bloating after you eat. So, if you've ever eaten something and looked in your stomach's like this, and then the next morning you wake up and it's flatter than what it was, and then you eat, that means there's some inflammation. Now, you might not have irritable bowel yet, but that's a start of it. If you have any belching, gas or anything like that, something's going on with digestion. That could be a sign that things are going on. And then most people can kind of get by with maybe a little belching, some gas, and maybe, some belly bloating and stuff. But when you start getting the cramping of the intestine, I've had patients come in, female patients obviously, that said that when it gets real bad, it can feel like almost as bad as giving birth. I don't know, because I obviously haven't done that. But I understand that cramping, if a woman says that, it's got to be pretty bad. If it's a guy, stuff like that, we're not going to be really worried about that. But when a woman says it's close to giving birth, then you know that it can't be that good. So really and then you're going to get, basically, if you've got full-blown irritable bowel syndrome, when you go somewhere, the first thing you're doing is you're looking to see where the bathrooms are, because it can happen anytime. And all of a sudden when you eat, within a certain amount of time, all of a sudden you tell something's brewing, you're getting all these signs, and you got to get to the bathroom quick. And what that means is there's something that you're consuming that is causing your intestine to inflame, and it's trying to get rid of it as quick as possible. And that's that sudden explosive diarrhea. And also, if you do have diarrhea before that, that in itself can affect the normal flora of the colon. It has to be replenished and built back. If you've ever had a stomach virus, or where you've had vomiting and diarrhea, then that's going to change the whole flora. It's going to change the pH of the stomach. And the stomach is what we look for in the pH, because if the pH is not right in the stomach, then what ends up happening is the food that isn't all the way digested and is put in the small intestine, and the small intestine is going, hey, we're not ready for this. It pushes back in the stomach. That's why you get reflux. So anyway, those are kind of the basic symptoms. Obviously with that, it's going to affect your sleep, your energy level. It's going to, if it's allowed to stay there for a long time, it's going to affect your hormones. If you remember back when we were talking about the thyroid, that 20% of the T4 is converted to T3 in the stomach. If you have irritable bowel syndrome, that's going to affect the conversion, and so if it happens long enough, then you can start having thyroid symptoms. But anyway, if you look at the Mayo Clinic site and they talk about irritable bowel syndrome, they talk about the symptoms like what we just did, and they're going to say, well, maybe you should try and avoid some food, certain foods like maybe beans, or something like that. And they had a couple medicines that they were recommending, but they got taken off the market, and now there's a new one out. So the thing is, for overall health, we want to fix the gut so it works right, because it can affect so many other areas. So when we have patients that come in and they're a candidate for a treatment, we have to do certain labs on them. And we would do the labs on these patients, and we'll talk about this in a little bit. But there are certain labs that we do that if they're on reflux medicine, they have to go off it because it changes the lab results. And so when those patients have to go off it, they thought that their reflux was under control. Go off for 4 or 5 days and you see like, oh my gosh, the reflex is still there. So even though it's been feeling good, it's been doing damage, and you can get Barrett's esophagus or any of those eroding type things because of the reflux. So there are medicines that help. So this new medicine for IBS is touted as supposed to help everything, But what's it like? Is it really fixing, or is it just covering up the symptoms? So as Hippocrates says, we need to look at the gut to make sure that, we figure out where the problems are in the intestine, because that can affect overall health. So anyway, what we want to do is we want to figure out exactly what's going on. So one of the things that we're going to test for is we're going to go to cyrexlabs.com. You can go and look at these. Array number 2 is for intestinal permeability. That's what everyone's called leaky gut. Well, leaky gut doesn't just start one day and it's all bad. I mean, leaky gut comes on over a period of time. Now, leaky gut doesn't mean your gut leaks. Basically what happens is if you have an inflamed intestine and the intestine has to be fixed. So what ends up happening is it causes leaky gut. So there's a little stream like this in the intestine that when you eat food, goes through the stomach, breaks it down, goes through the small intestine and the large intestine to be reabsorbed into the bloodstream. And that stream lets micromolecules into the bloodstream. That's where we get our nutrients. That's where everything works right. Well, when your stomach gets inflamed and swollen, that screen, which should be like the screen on your windows outside, on the outside, it becomes like a chicken wire, big porous openings, and it lets things, macromolecules, into the bloodstream that are not supposed to be there. So when that happens, then there's a cytokine response and it causes inflammation. So if it's in the blood, it goes from head to toe, all over. But it also goes to the brain. And then if the brain is inflamed, it doesn't work right. So a lot of these patients, even though they're coming in for irritable bowel, we still put them on oxygen and we do the neurological treatments, because if the brain is inflamed, the signals can't get across and it doesn't start working right. So anyway, that's what leaky gut is. So we need to figure out, okay, how do we do this? Do you know that there are over 10,000 published research articles on PubMed about leaky gut? If you look up leaky gut, you might not find it, because the scientific term is intestinal permeability. So it's been going on for a long time. Unfortunately, there's no drugs that fix this. It's more of a lifestyle. It's more about keeping foods out of your diet that can irritate and inflame your intestine. It's about getting nutrition, and it's about getting you on products that are going to heal the gut and re-inoculate the gut with good bacteria versus bad bacteria. So another thing that could affect with the leaky gut is you can get dyssymbiosis, and that's where the good bacteria gets out of kilter with the bad bacteria. And what about a patient that's had their gallbladder removed? I mean, I have patients sometimes who are 20 years old. We get them on a supplement right away, because when you eat a fatty meal, whether it's a fatty meal from beef or if it's vegetables that have fat in, like avocado, good fats, your gallbladder produces bile that's supposed to emulsify the fat. So if you don't have a gallbladder, what's going to emulsify the fat? Well, what ends up happening is amylase is produced in excess in the adrenals, which can lead to the adrenals not functioning right, because it's supposed to be a backup plan when there's more fat in the meal that the gallbladder can handle, and then lipase from the liver. So when we talked about, what could this go to? Well, when the adrenals don't work right and the liver doesn't work right, then there's a whole host of things. So then you start finding more and more symptoms. But again, we're just talking about irritable bowel syndrome. So anyway, if you have an inflamed gut, intestinal permeability, you can be eating all the right foods, but the products, the good nutrition, are not going to be delivered to the bloodstream to nourish the body. So you can be eating good, but you can actually be malnourished. A lot of these patients have low-grade vitamin and mineral deficiencies because of that. All you got to do is have a flu and upper GI, and you throw up a lot. That's going to change your electrolytes, and you have to replenish those. So anyway, so what we do for the patients is we have them fill out paperwork, and we do some labs. So the labs that we do are with the Cyrex labs, and there's a patient section and a doctor section. If you go to the patient section, once you get done looking at these, you're going to be so excited. You're going to call up and you're going to say, hey, Dr. Rose, I want to have those labs because I have not had any labs like this. Array number 2 is going to let us know if you have intestinal permeability issues or leaky gut. Now, you can go ahead and assume that you have leaky gut, but it tests for 6 different things in there, and it gives us an idea on how to fix it. So in a little bit, I'll give you some home remedies to try. You can do that. If it doesn't work, remember these tests because we can solve the problem for you. Array number 3 is where it checks you for gluten. And if you produce antibodies to the gluten, then that means that 1 teaspoon of gluten is going to cause brain and colon inflammation for 30 days. So you can assume that you have a gluten problem, or we can do that test and confirm that you do have it. Because a lot of patients come in, I was trying to go gluten-free. It is really difficult. You really have to be motivated to go gluten-free. It's not easy. You have to change your lifestyle. It says, hey, you have a problem with gluten, and every time you eat it causes brain and colon inflammation for 30 days. You're going to be like, okay, that is my poison. I'm never going to have that again. Same thing with dairy. So then, array number 4 is the cross-reacting foods. So there are certain foods genetically that cross-react that when you eat them act just like, let's say you have a problem with gluten. So if you have a problem with gluten, you can get on the computer, type in, gluten problem, and give me replacement foods for gluten. And they're going to give you a lot of healthy foods. Teff, sorghum, Polish wheat, barley, all these other things. So anyway, this test lets us know if you have a problem with one of those other foods. So if you do and you produce antibodies to it, then it is exactly like eating gluten. And this test is really cool because I had a patient that she was in our thyroid recovery program, and we found out she had a problem with gluten, and we reintroduced foods after she was doing a lot better and her gut had healed. And so anyway, we found out that she was eating cheese, and that's what she wanted to reintroduce. And it was grated cheese. It was Horizon cheese. But after she ate it, she had diarrhea for 2 or 3 days. So anyway, I had her, she called up on a Monday morning, and I had her bring the package in, and we looked on there. So anyway, she had shredded cheese, and it had a white powder on it, and it was potato starch, and her cross-tracking food was potato starch. So if we hadn't done that test, we would think that she had a problem with dairy. So it lets us know exactly, what we're doing. So then after that is array number 10, and this just became available, and this goes into far more depth. And I actually had a patient that Hashimoto's autoimmune, and she was doing good, but we kind of leveled off, and I knew something was wrong. So we did array number 10 because we wanted to find out what was going on. And she had a hard time with a bowel movement, constipation, so she was using Smooth Move tea and chia seeds. Well, anyway, we found out that one of her cross-reacting foods on that was chia seeds and then almonds, and almond was her snack. So it really lets us focus as to what is a problem for you, takes all the guesswork out of there. Then we do the ASI, which is the adrenal test, and we do a stool sample. The stool sample, we check for all kinds of stuff, for parasites, any kind of bugs that might be in the stomach, which can be low-grade bacteria, virus, fungus, yeast, anything like that. So that way we know exactly, and we can get the proper treatment for that. So anyway, that's all I'm going to talk about. Peppers, potatoes, eggplant, you could try bone broth, kefir, which is a goat, and it helps with the probiotic and with the gut health, intestinal health. And then we could, let's see. Oh, fermented foods like sauerkraut. A lot of people don't like sauerkraut, but just try it for a little bit. You can do all those things. Drink a lot of water. Cut pop out. Anything that's going to inflame the stomach. Don't drink any diet pop because it has like a neurotoxin in it. Aspartame or aspartame. Any of that stuff there. Just try to go as natural. Try not to eat any processed foods. Try to cut out gluten and any starches. Try to go with a healthy mix of protein, green vegetables, and then some fruit. You got to be careful that you don't have too much fruit. And that's one of the things that I'm really not a big proponent on juicing, is because I think that to make the juice taste good, we put too much fruit in there. So you want to watch the fruit level, because then that's going to get your blood sugar level up too. So anyway, if you try those things at home, I think that if you've got a minor case of IBS, I think that you're going to probably see some pretty good improvement in that. So anyway, I want to cover a couple questions. Remember, if you want to get this TruBifid Pro probiotic, like and share our page. If you want to get this Irritated to No End by your IBS, it's an in-depth, informative, all kinds of information here to help you and understand how we do this. But we had a couple of questions, and this one was from June Odell, and she said that she's experienced hair loss, she's tired, and she's on thyroid medicine. So anyway, if you just Google and put hair loss and tired, you're probably going to come up with biotin, which is good for the hair, good for the nails, good for the skin. And a lot of thyroid patients have a problem with that. So if you Google it, it's not like I'm giving any medical advice because I haven't seen the patient. I'm just saying, if you go and Google this, because I don't know the ins and outs of her situation, but if she just Googles hair loss and tired, you're going to come up with, get a good solid natural B vitamin and some biotin, and that might help. If not, if it's still there, then you might want to look into doing something else. When we have a patient that comes in and they have a thyroid problem, they fill out about 15 pages, and so we ask all these questions so we know exactly what's going on with them. Same thing when you come in IBS. When you're on IBS, we have you fill out all the paperwork because we want to make sure, if you've tried this stuff at home and you've Googled things and you've looked on these health sites and you've got some ideas and you try those and you're still not having trouble, then you just need more an in-depth program. That's why we ask so many questions, because we want to make sure that you're a candidate. Now, Alice asked a question, and she said, I've had low thyroid levels for years, but not low enough to be considered having a thyroid problem. My levels have ranged from 0.56 to 1.6, and a little over a year ago, I started having IBS issues. Could it be linked to my thyroid? So, anyway, Alice, if you go back to, I think it's episode 2 of the Dr. B show, we talked about the labs and where they should be. So, you're hovering between in hyperthyroid. So I don't know exactly what's going on with you, what you look like, what your body shape is, hair loss, stomach, anything like that. But you got to understand that normal function, not normal, but optimum function is going to be 1.8 to 3.0. So at your 0.56 and 1.6, you're still down here, and you got to understand that it probably isn't working as good as it should be. But if you go back to that, I think it's episode 2, we also talk about the 6 patterns of thyroid dysfunction. And you can have a normal TSH, but your T3, T4, or some of the other, we do 11 tests on thyroid, could be off. But is it related? One of my patients, she was in our thyroid recovery program, and her name is Shelley. You can go to my YouTube channel and look her up. She had irritable bowel for 38 years, and within 3 months, we were able to fix her irritable bowel. So yes, gut health goes hand in hand with autoimmune, thyroid, peripheral neuropathy, and fibromyalgia. I mean, the gut health is very important. So anyway, Alice, thank you for the question. June, I hope that answered your question. If you have more questions that you would like to ask, or if you want to do a short little 5-minute telephone consultation, you can call our office at 481-2770. We'll try to arrange a time if you have more questions. It's really difficult just by going off the questions, so I hope I answered as much as I could, and hopefully that'll answer it for them. So anyway, I'd just like to thank everybody for tuning in. Remember, if you want to get the True Bifid Pro, make sure to like our page. Wouldn't hurt to have a couple hearts too, and then share our broadcast. And I look forward to seeing you next Tuesday, and I'm going to be doing a show on the Ask Dr. B show about my favorite smoothies. And they're not just favorite because they taste good, but they actually have things that are going to help you with gut health, with your adrenals. You know, there's different ones. There's smoothies for stress, so we'll go over all those. In the meantime, just remember that when you're dealing with the gut, that you have to remove the things that are irritating the gut. You have to get on nutrition to heal the gut, and then you got to replenish the probiotics to get normal health. So the stomach is important, and the other thing is stress is a big factor. We talked about that on the other ones, that stress raises cortisol level up. When a cortisol level raises up, a lot of things don't work right. So anyway, I hope to see you next Tuesday. Thanks for tuning in, and I hope you learn anything. If you have a question you want answered, like Alice and June Odell, you can email it to us at AskDrBShow@gmail.com. I'll see you next Tuesday.